A father locks his daughter in the basement for more than 20 years and does shady things to her. Attention! It is a story based on real events and the details are disturbing and imaginable. To start, we meet a couple who takes their daughter to the hospital. The man asks the mother not to talk, and when they admit the daughter, the heartbeat machine stops. We go back 20 years before. A family has dinner with their daughters Sarah and Amy. Sarah stands up because she is going to go out to party, but Don, who in real life is called Josef Fritzl and father of the girls, the man is upset because the mother did not consult him to give him permission and orders Sarah to sit down. She does not listen. The sister tries to help her, but sends them to her room. However, Sarah runs away from home to meet her boyfriend named Chris. The mother tries to talk to Sarah. However, the father arrives, who discovers that Sarah has run away and is surprised not to find her. Sarah is happy. She has fun at the party with her boyfriend. The next day we see that the father wakes up after having waited for her at the door of the house and watches his daughter say goodbye to Chris. Sarah arrives and starts the argument for going out without his permission. She tells him that she can't do what she wants under his roof, and she threatens him that as soon as she turns 18, she will leave his house forever. Then we see the sisters in the room. Sarah tells Amy everything nice that happened with her boyfriend. The mother arrives to tell her that she is grounded for a week, and then she goes to bed with her daughters. Sarah shows confidence and talks about her plan to run away from home at 18 and go to travel the world. However, none of them know that they are being listened to by the monster of the house. Don was planning shady things. The man goes down to the basement and reveals a secret door behind the library. The next day, the mother is about to leave while Sarah is talking on the phone with. When Irene leaves, Don arrives to ask Sarah for help to move something in the. When they go downstairs, Sarah asks her father if she can go out later with a friend, and he tells her that since she asked nicely, he gives. The man then shows her the secret door, and when she asks what that is, he says that the previous owner of the house built a bomb. Sarah tells him that everything looks disturbing because it doesn't even have windows, and without imagining it, the father locks her in, thus beginning her nightmare, and no matter how much she screams, no wonder. Sarah checks what helped her get down to the basement and finds her. She tries to activate the code for the door, but on the third try the pout. With a flashlight she observes a small ventilation duct, and through there she asks her father to let her free, but the monster covers the exit of the duct with things so that her voice is heard. The first 4 days that Sarah spends stuck in the basement, she continues trying to enter the door. She has to sleep on the floor and urinates. Bucket. The basement door opens, and when her father enters, Sarah pushes him and runs away, but her escape is thwarted because there is another key panel on the exit door. Her father tells her that this hallway is soundproof, and with one pull he pulls her back in. Sarah claims that he can't leave her locked in without air, and Don tells her that the air will be cut off if the power goes out, and the power will be cut off if she fails 3 times in the door password. She asks him why he does that, and he tells her that life is a series of actions and consequences and doesn't do what he wants. Now she is going to learn, and from now on everything she wants she can only have it if he wants it. He asks her if she understood, but since his daughter didn't answer him, the monster whips her and then pushes her again. Then Don goes up to his house as if nothing had happened, and starts talking to the policeman, who is questioning his family about the disappearance of Sarah. He says not to worry, that she probably ran away after a party, but the mother says that she would have called. Amy mentions Chris, but he doesn't know anything either. Don mentions the plans to run away to see the world at 18, but the mother says that it's even stranger that he left without celebrating anything. The policeman doesn't imagine how shady the case is and says that usually disappearances are solved by themselves when the person calls, but just in case they number. On day 7 of confinement we see that Sarah has memories. She is talking to her boyfriend. They plan together. The monster was cleaning, and we see Chris arrive to ask him if he knows anything about Sarah, but Don tells him that Sarah ran away with her lifelong love, a man from the neighborhood named Steve, with whom she also had plans to travel around the world. Chris leaves upset. The sound of the motorcycle upsets Irene, but Don tells her that it is the sound of his lawnmower. The 21st arrives. The father brings a cake to celebrate Sarah's 18th birthday, and as a gift gives her a sexy pajama. Don tells her that he will give her a gift for her birthday, and Sarah asks him to get out of there. Dawn tells her to ask for something else, and after asking for a television, the monster agrees to bring her a watch, but in exchange she must please him. A year later we see Sarah pregnant, by her own father. Things get worse when water starts coming out between her legs and she looks for help in a book on motherhood. She falls to the floor in pain and finally has her first daughter and decides to call her Marie. Dawn became a father and grandfather. He goes down to the basement and has the baby in a box and tells Sarah that motherhood is the best thing that can happen to a woman because it gives her purpose. 4 years pass and they still don't find Sarah. Irene is still devastated, and in the basement Marie is no longer a baby and we see that Sarah is pregnant again. The monster tells her that she has received a promotion at work. Sarah tells Dawn that soon there will be 3. It is never too late to let him out, but the man gets upset and goes to dinner with his other family. Amy congratulates her father for the raise. However, Irene asks if with the raise they can hire a private investigator, but her husband gets upset and leaves without eating. Then we see that the monster leaves a television for the family. Marie gets excited. Fast forward 7 years, Marie has a fever and Dawn goes down to the basement to bring her medicine. Sarah tells him that it is not a dose for children. However, Dawn says to give her half and not to bother her anymore and says goodbye to his son named Michael. They are left alone again and Marie asks him to tell her a story, and Sarah remembers the events that have happened to her and tells it as if it were a tragic fairy tale. She mentions that she is still waiting for the arrival of her prince Chris. Outside we see Chris arrive and he meets Amy and the two catch up, but things get murky when they touch on the subject of Sarah and neither of them knows anything. Chris comments that Stephen must be very obsessive to not let her communicate with her family, and Amy was surprised. In the basement Marie knocks on the door waiting for Dawn to arrive to take her out, but Sarah, who is pregnant again, tells him to shut his mouth. Marie gets upset because she wants to visit a zoo and go out to see the street as she saw on TV. Chris and Amy continue talking, unable to believe that Dawn lied, but Chris says that he always knew it was a lie, but since the monster told him in a nice way, he ended up believing it. Amy says that her father is that manipulative and she really wants Sarah to be free and happy wherever she is, but that sometimes she fears that her father sent her to visit St. Peter. Irene and Amy complain to Dawn about Stephen's lie. The monster ends up saying that he did it because Chris had no reason to know about family matters. Amy accuses her father of having done something wrong and the argument increased when Irene gets upset, saying private investigator herself. Irene is chased by Dawn. Amy grabs the keys and goes down to the basement. However, her father arrives and chases her away and Amy swears that he will find out everything, but the father threatens if she insists on blaming him. The monster arrives where Sarah and realizes that Sarah already has another son and names him Thomas. She proposes to Dawn to take the third baby upstairs, but he tries to manipulate her by calling her a bad mother for wanting to abandon her son. But she manipulates him by saying that the less she takes care of children she could have more time, and so the monster was manipulated. They leave the baby at the door of the house, along with a note where it explains that Sarah has a boyfriend and they had a son, but that she does not have money to take care of him and that please keep him until she returns someday. Irene shows him to Dawn, but the monster accesses something in the baby's basket. Dawn goes to the basement and angrily tells her that he discovered the secret letter, that he has her locked in the basement and that they should call the police. The angry man makes her put on the red suit and insults her. At the same time we see Marie telling the fairy tale to her brother. When the tale ends, we see that Marie and Michael are teenagers. However, Sarah looks emaciated. She has already been locked up for 14 years. Sarah finishes cutting Michael's hair and we see another pregnant belly, painted lips, and Sarah gets upset. When Dawn tells Marie that she looks pretty, Sarah tells Marie to wash her face and tells the monster that he doesn't do it with his daughter, and to stop bringing her makeup. 17 years pass and we see Sarah with another pregnancy. In the basement there is water dripping from a hole and Sarah has the idea of digging with a spoon until she manages to make a hole. She turns on a flashlight to try to alert someone and she succeeds. A man was walking his dog and notices, but when he goes to warn the owners of the house, unfortunately it is Dawn who opens the door, and as soon as he finds out he goes down to teach Sarah. He hits her so hard that she loses the baby. It's been 18 years of confinement. Dawn goes to the basement, but Sarah is upset. Her children ask her about Thomas and Dawn says that he's big and strong and wants to play soccer and baseball. Michael says that he also wants to go out to play, but Don says that they can't because of their mother. The children blame Sarah and Sarah got so frustrated that she ended up breaking everything and falls asleep. Then Sarah apologizes and says that if she had learned to keep quiet like this would have happened, and her children ask her who is Amy. Sarah can't keep the secret anymore and confesses the truth. Her father and her same person, and Marie falls into an asthma attack. 19 years have passed. Don arrives with little food and Michael gets upset and orders his father not to treat Sarah like that, and Don tells him that he's younger than him, he is more of a man, and leaves. Irene complains to Don about the household economy and many other problems that are witnessed by Thomas. Then we see Don receiving an email that tells him that for not paying his mortgage on time he is about to lose the house. Don realizes that he cannot support two families in the basement with gas from the car and thus end that problem. Thomas arrives and asks him what is wrong. His father tells him that it is regarding the subject of actions and consequences, and he is trying to remedy a mistake that seemed like a good action. Thomas tells him that he trusts that he will do well and gives him a hug, and the man apparently regretted it. The 20th year of confinement arrives and Thomas is at a barbecue with his family. Don and Irene are happy that their grandson is a good boy. However, in the basement Marie has another asthma attack. The monster arrives and tells her that it is not a big deal and that perhaps the best thing is for her to visit St. Peter. Sarah can't take it anymore and tells him that she wants to be with her and wants her safe and asks for his dad, and miraculously he agrees to take her to a hospital. However, he left Michael locked up. At that moment we see the scene that starts the movie. They reveal that Marie's pulse is back and she's still alive. A nurse comes asking questions about Marie. She doesn't have any medical records. Her father lies saying that she is homeschooled and that everything has been fine. The nurse leaves them a form to fill out and Sarah has the idea of asking for help. First she asks to go to the bathroom, but Don doesn't. She spills water on the form and Don goes to ask for another one. Sarah runs off to tell everything to the nurse, who just happens to approach. Don starts yelling at him and everything we expected happens. Marie wakes up and Sarah tells her that they are safe out of the basement and that the police arrested Don. Other officers arrive at Don's house and take Michael out in front of Thomas and Irene's eyes. Finally we see them all together and finally the boys playing outdoors and Sarah happy with her mother and sister. However, a motorcycle arrives and it was Chris. He never stopped waiting for her and shows her everything he wanted to give her 20 years ago. Sarah tells him that she and ends with both of them on the motorcycle to an unknown destination. This film is based on real events and the reality is murkier. This case refers to the crimes perpetrated by the Austrian engineer Josef Fritzl, and of which Fritzl and the 7 children and grandchildren he had with her were victims. Josef kept them locked up with a padlock in a basement for 24 years, from 1984 to 2008. The crimes began with the rape of Elizabeth from the age of 11 and continued throughout the captivity in which he kept her. During her captivity she gave birth to 7 children. 2 of them twins, one of whom did not survive shortly after birth and was cremated by his own father. Josef Fritzl kept his daughter Elizabeth locked up from the age of 18 in a windowless basement, living in the same 2-story residential building where he himself lived with his wife Rosemary, with whom he also had 7 children, and Elizabeth's mother. Comment if you think it is possible that